Welcome back to Shogun's CRO Expert Series. I'm Laura, I'm the marketing director for Shogun, and this is where I ask CRO experts all of the burning questions that brands and merchants want to know. This week, I am interviewing Connor Shelefontiuk, the founder of More Conversions, a CRO agency. And Connor and I talk about marketing, about how important it is to understand who your audience is, how to identify your audience. He gives tactical steps about what to do if you feel like your meta ads aren't converting and you want to optimize better for them. We also talk about why redesigns are not always a good idea. And if you're not testing while redesigning, it could be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Connor shares a real world experience where a brand lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on a redesign. So if you are trying to grow your brand, if you really want to understand who your audience is and how to best optimize for them, listen to this episode. All right, so today I have Connor Shelefontiuk with us. He is the co-founder of More Conversions, which is an agency for DTC brands. We are going to talk all about CRO, DTC, marketing. But before we get into it, Connor, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you guys do over at More Conversions?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Connor Shelefontiuk, obviously. I've been in the DTC world for this is actually my 11th year, which has surprisingly gone by really, really fast. I spent the first 7.5 years basically building my own brands. So I was on the brand side for a really long time. My core skill set that I built up over those years was media buying, creative strategy, and of course, building offers and conversion rate optimization and sort of everything that goes along with it. So basically, we started this agency 3.5 years ago, and the premise behind it was I'm going to take everything that I had sort of learned over those 7.5 years building my own brands, and see if we can just apply those same strategies and learnings to other brands out there, and ideally get get a positive result out of it. And it turns out that the hypothesis was correct. We were able to start applying the stuff that I had learned over the years in terms of building offers and conversion rate optimization. We were able to apply it to other brands and get some really great results for them. So what we do now, we are a CRO agency, but I'd say we're very different than the average CRO agency because we focus more on building really strong offers. Because we've noticed, stuff like UI, UX, design, branding, that sort of thing, which is more, I guess, the classic CRO agency side of things. That stuff isn't as impactful as building a really strong offer. So we focus on, improving unit economics through better pricing strategies, through better shipping strategies, through better bundle offers or quantity breaks or gamified incentives. So really what we do is we help brands build a better offer so we can reduce their acquisition costs or increase, their marketing, improve their marketing efficiency through increasing average order value or net profitability per order. Really, whatever it is that's holding back the brand from growth, we use offer testing and building better offers to sort of unlock growth and profitability through them for them through that.
Love it. Uh, that's amazing. I being on the brand side and then coming over to the agency side, or for me, like on the tech side, is so interesting because like the brand side it's tough out there. Like it really is. It changes every single day. Ecom is tricky. So I love that you were like in that driver's seat for such a long time because that's kind of how you learn. You got to like get your cut your skin, however you say that. Uh, it'll come to me later. Anyway, all right.
I know what
So
you mean.
yeah, you gotta like gotta prove your worth a little bit, and you can do that only really in the brand side before you get over
Yeah.
to the agency. All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about offer testing, okay? Because I know this is where you guys specialize. So I just want to know, like, what is offer testing, and why do you feel so strongly that it is so critical for especially scaling e-commerce brands who are growing really quickly?
Yeah, good question. So I'll touch on the first question. What is offer testing? So to us, there's sort of three main pieces of an offer. The first piece is who the offer is for. And this is generally our starting point because the majority of brands that we talk to, especially if they're like doing less than $50 million a year, those brands tend to not really have a strong understanding of who their core avatar is. So the most common thing that we see is brands that are trying to sell to everybody, because if you sell to everybody, the target addressable market is the biggest, and the thought process is if you target everybody, you can sell to the most people and you make the most amount of money. That is entirely not the case. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The more specific you get, the better you're able to speak to the right people, the easier it is to scale, because acquisition costs are lower, people spend more money, the LTV is higher, all that sort of stuff, right? So first part of offer testing is who you're actually selling to. The second piece of offer testing is the actual unit economics behind the specific offer itself. So, how are you pricing things? Do you have a strong enough gross margin to actually be able to spend enough money on a platform like Meta or Google in a way that's either profitable on the first order, ideally profitable on the first order, or at least at a point where you can lose as little money as possible while still, which is more of the landscape now than it was 10 years ago when I first started. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but but do you have the right unit economics to basically be able to continue to push more and more ad spend to acquire more and more customers, and ultimately grow the brand? And then the third piece of offer testing, which tends to be the last thing that we get into, is basically hyper personalization on a per market basis. So what I mean by that is brands, especially when they scale past like 20, 30, 40, 50 million a year, they start to get into other markets. So they start to, maybe they'll start in the United States, then they'll start to run ads in Canada, then they'll start to run ads in Europe, then they'll start to run ads in Australia, right? At that point, and this is true for basic, I'd probably say 99% of brands that we've worked with sort of this capacity, they tend to take the exact same offer that they have in the United States and they run it in every other country. And it works in some instances, but every market is entirely different. What makes them buy is different. What they consider to be a good offer is different. Even the unit economics behind those markets are different. So if you really want to scale beyond that point, we found it to be very, very important to personalize the offers to every single market. So that's the messaging that you use, the pricing, the shipping options, the bundle options, the discounts, non-discounts, gifts with purchase, everything. Every market is entirely different, and we've never seen the exact same offer work in different markets as well as it does if you personalize it to that market. So, number one, who you're selling to. Number two, the unit economics behind the offer. Number three, personalization on a per market basis.
Oh my gosh, so many. Okay, so I have a zillion questions. But let's start. Okay, so let's start with this first part because I think this is really interesting. You guys start with who are you selling to? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of brands reverse that. At least I've seen a lot of brands, they just like want to dive right into Meta. They want to start getting that traffic and they want as much traffic as possible. So they tend to like spread a really, really wide net. You and I have spoken about like, if you're talking to everyone, you're selling to no one. What would a brand need to do? Where do they need to look? How can a brand start? If there is a brand out there who's watching this who's like, I'm trying to sell to everybody, what would you like? What's your recommendation? Like, what's the first thing they need to do to really start narrowing down on who that ideal customer is for them?
For sure. So, this kind of depends how we'd approach it. Really depends on the stage that the brand is in. So, if we're talking like brand new brand, maybe they just launched, or maybe they're doing like less than $2 to $5 million a year. At that stage, you tend to not have an astronomical amount of your own data yet to work with.
Mhm.
So, the number one resource that we have ever found for this specifically is Reddit. Reddit is like an
Whoa.
absolute gold mine of information because it's anonymous and people speak their truths on Reddit because they're behind an anonymous username and a keyboard. So what we'll do is we'll go and look into all the different Reddit communities for a specific vertical, whether it's like pets or specific supplements or clothing or whatever, and we'll just get as much unfiltered feedback as to what people are saying on those Reddit threads. What pain points do they have? Are they complaining about specific things that other competitors that they're buying from are doing a poor job of? Basically, as much information as we can collect. And what we're looking for is what type of people are purchasing, what are their problems, what
Yeah.
are their pain points, what is not being solved by the market currently that we could leverage in marketing or leverage on the pages and within the offers themselves. Basically, as much information as we can. The second piece, if you're a brand that doesn't have a ton of customers, a ton of data, is customer reviews. from either Amazon or competitor websites. Those are also an absolute gold mine of information because, again, in reviews, people are either talking about the things that they loved or they're talking about the things that they absolutely hated. And both of those give us copy that we can use. If we know somebody loves something for a specific reason, that's a marketing angle we can use or something we can build into an offer. And then if they're talking extensively about things that they hate, which people love to do when they leave negative reviews, we can also leverage that in either, marketing or within the offer or on the pages themselves and say, hey, these are the things that we don't do, and we can directly address it. So really what we're trying to do is understand the ideal customer's problems and pain points, how they describe it in their own words, and then take that and use that in marketing and use that within our offers, and that
Yeah.
becomes marketing and offer that's very aligned with what the average person is looking for. Third point, if you are a brand that does have a decent amount of customers, usually you want to have at least 5 to 10,000 customers, is customer surveys incredibly valuable. We do three types of surveys. Number one, first one we do is an abandoned cart survey. So if anybody visits the website, you have your standard abandoned cart email that gets sent out if they abandon their cart or their checkout and they leave. I don't think I've ever talked to a brand as of yet that has actually run a survey in their abandoned cart email. So what we like to do is we'll send an email that says, "Hey, we noticed you didn't check out with your order. Just wondering, would you be willing to answer a couple questions as to why you chose to not check out with us today? If you do, we'll give you, $10 off your order, kind of thing." And we'll just ask three simple questions. What did you not, first of all, like, why were you interested in our product to begin with? Like, what got you interested? Second, why did you not choose to buy with us? And third, what can we do better? That's it.
Mhm.
And then you start to get data. You start to get data from all those people who are abandoning. And what you'll notice is you'll have this basically, it's like the 80-20 rule, where you have 80% of customers that say one or two things. And then all of a sudden you get that information. It's like, okay, let's test changing our offer to address the 80% of reasons why people are abandoning. And most of the time when you do that, all of a sudden you start to see your abandoned cart rates go down and more people start to purchase because you're now addressing those issues as to why people weren't purchasing. Second survey we do is a post-purchase survey. This is immediately after somebody makes a purchase, shows up on the thank you page, and we just ask them the slightly different questions. Basically, again, what problems and pain points were you trying to solve when you visited our website? What did we do a good job of? And what could we do better? That's it. Three
Mhm.
three simple questions again, and then that gives us more data to work with as to how we can adjust the offer or what we should do lean into heavier. If people say, "Hey, you
Yeah.
did a really good job of this, and this was really appealing to us, and this was the problem that we were trying to solve," we can lean more into those things. And then the third survey is post purchase, but like typically 7 to 14 days after the order has been delivered. And then this allows us to start getting feedback as to how are you liking the product, what's good about it, what's bad about it, what problems is it solving for you. If it's not solving problems, what would you hope for it to help you solve? And then again, we get
Mhm.
this data as to what the end user is actually thinking, so we can leverage that further in marketing or in the offers themselves. So you combine all of those things and you start to get a really, really good idea as to who your core avatar is and what problems and pain points they have, and what type of verbiage that they use to describe it, so you can be very aligned in both marketing efforts and the offer that you're presenting to people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so what I'm hearing is if you are a smaller brand, you're just starting out, you don't have a ton of customers, start with that market research. I totally agree with you on Reddit. I was on Reddit earlier today because I'm looking for a double stroller,
Mhm.
and I was absolutely like in all the mom threads trying to see what they were saying about double strollers. It can be a gold mine. I would caveat with Reddit though, like if you come in as a brand and you're like clearly just trying to poach information, those mods will lock it down. You
Oh
just
yeah,
need to like creep
you
a
got to be
little bit, I
sneaky.
think. Yes, exactly, exactly. Which I'm sure you guys have perfected, but just for anyone watching this, please don't go and start like putting up a bunch of posts because
Oh
people will
yeah.
sniff that out. So you start with the quality of like research, looking
Yep.
at Amazon, I think competitors, that's brilliant. And then once you do have that steady grow that those steady customers, once you are getting steady sales, that's when you really do that survey and get that qualitative data. And I'm assuming then you use that to start running your tests and combining with the quantitative data, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we take all that, we compile that, and then we basically build hypotheses based on all of that that says, okay, we've got 10 different hypotheses based off of all this information. We're going to test each one of those and see which one or two or three improves performance. Then as soon as we get that signal and we see one that performs better, we can then say, okay, this hypothesis based on this piece of information is showing a positive improvement to the market. Therefore, we know because of that, people are we say voting with their dollars. So if people are spending more money on this different offer versus all the other ones, we can now say, okay, let's lean into this heavier and let's continue to dig down this path because we know the signals that it's giving us says that this is the most important thing for people or for our potential customers. So we can continue to lean into it more and more over time. But starts with data, then it's a hypothesis that we test, figure out which one works best, and then continue to lean heavier into it.
Yeah, love it. Love it. You've got it down to a science. So let's talk about meta ads and really meta ads.
Yeah.
I want to know what you guys would say if we all know meta ads are super big. TikTok ads are real big. I'm with you. Like when I was running marketing for a DTC brand, it was like 2016. It was great. It was like we would turn on these meta ads and like just watch the sales come
Yep.
in. And it was a beautiful time. And then it ended. So what do you tell someone? What do you tell a brand who is running meta ads and they're not seeing the the conversions they want? They don't feel like they're getting that return on ad spend. Where is the first place they need to start? I'm assuming it's the offer, but I'm curious about what you would do if a brand came to you and said, "We've got a huge budget for meta ads, but they're just not converting for
Yeah.
us." How do you approach that?
So, assuming their creative is already sort of on point, like they have a
Mhm.
good amount of creative, it's diverse, it's very well done. Assuming that's sort of handled, and we don't look at their account, they're like, you have three ads running and they're statics, and like that's an entire another story. We don't really help with that because we're kind of been out of the loop on creative strategy for a few years, but usually if that's the case we'll say go talk to a creative agency before you talk to us because you got to solve that
Hmm.
problem first. But assuming that's taken care of, most of the time goes back to the first point I was talking about earlier, is they don't know who they're talking to yet. And
Hmm.
the issue with that is Meta is a very, very powerful platform. The problem with Meta, or the problem that brands have with Meta, is that when you don't know who you're talking to and you talk to everybody, it's really difficult for Meta to consistently find the right person for you. And this goes
Yeah.
all the way back to knowing who you're talking to, because if you have a very broad audience that you're marketing to, and you're spending these marketing dollars, and you see, your spend is inconsistent. One day it's amazing, the next day it's not. 4 days later, you have a 50% margin, and 6 days later you're losing $10,000. That typically comes down to the fact that Meta doesn't know who to target consistently because you don't know who you're talking to consistently. So they're just looking for anybody and everybody who's going to buy. They're not looking for
Yeah.
the same type of person over and over. And that again comes down to the offer that you're presenting to them does not speak to one specific type of person. It speaks to too many people. And with a machine learning algorithm, if you're feeding it data on 25-year-old males, and then 62-year-old females, and then 37-year-old moms, and then 45-year-old dads, and all these people are constantly buying, how is Meta ever going to drive you
Hmm.
consistent traffic? Because they don't know who your buyer is, because you don't know who your buyer is. So it
Yeah.
always comes back to, first things first, is you need to figure out who your ideal customer is, and you need to build an offer for that person. Every time we've helped brands do that, Meta performance has stabilized and become very consistent because now Meta knows who to actually target. So that's
Yeah.
the first part. And then after that, if they do have that down, then it's again goes back to unit economics. If they're not scaling, it's probably because their gross margin's too low, or they don't have a really
Mhm.
strong incentive or bundling option to drive up average order value so they can spend more to acquire a customer, or they're not hyper personalized per market. So US is crushing, and the five other markets are bringing down performance across the rest of the campaign because they don't have an offer for those markets. Most of the time, it
Yeah.
always comes down to one of those three things. And depending on, if they're sub 10 million a year, usually it's point number one. If they're between like
Mhm.
10 to 20 million a year, usually it's point number two. And then if they're, above that, then usually it's point number three. So we kind of categorize it based on revenue range. But sometimes, brand doing less than 10 million a year is doing a great job of speaking to the right person, but their unit economics are terrible, and they have a 40% gross margin on their products, and they have to get like a 4 return on ad spend to be able to continue to scale, and that's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, it's so crazy to think about like how brands can grow so quickly, but not have a finger on that growth, like
Mm,
those economics. Like it's so easy to do now. I mean, it really is. You get hot or you like have a couple of good influencers who are
yeah.
like turning you in. It's very easy, I think, to just ignore the economics of it all.
Yeah. Then it turns into a big problem when they've, when they've sold or the Meta's found them all the easy customers, and it starts to get harder, and their acquisition cost doubles and they don't know why, and it's like, now what?
And it can happen like that with Meta.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing
overnight.
about Meta, yeah, is like what I caution people with is I'm like Meta wants clicks. Meta wants to give you all that good data,
Hmm.
and it shows. So it's going to show to people who like think you click. And if you're exactly like you're saying, if you're not like nailed down, then it's going to show you to be like, well, this person clicks on stuff and buys stuff, and
Yeah.
it kind of seems like you're talking to them because all those people are on Meta. I mean, we all are on Instagram or Facebook, probably
Yeah.
mostly Instagram at this point, but
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the issue is there's like what, over 3 billion people now between
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram. So the audience pool is I mean, for the most part, infinite. You have 90 million, 100 million new users every single year. If you're not specific, Meta will just spend your money because that's what they're going to do. They don't.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. If you set a $5,000 a day budget, they're going to do everything in their power to spend the $5,000 a day budget,
Hmm.
and they're going to find you whoever they think is the right person. So it's our responsibility to feed them the right data by presenting the right offer to the right person. So Meta can do its job and do what it does very effectively if we give it the right data.
Yes, yes. I will say I'm every brand's worst nightmare because I click on so many meta ads because I'm just interested in the flow. Like
Hmm.
I'm a marketer, so I just want to see what it
I'm the
all
same
looks
way.
like.
Yeah.
So Meta just gives me a million ads for almost anything. And I'm always like, let me just click this and see what the whole flow is.
Yep.
And sometimes I buy, but most of the time I don't. All right. Okay, so I want to pivot because I want to talk to you about this for the couple minutes we have left because I think
Sure.
this is very interesting. One thing I know you say on LinkedIn is you don't believe in doing complete redesigns. You are a little bit against these massive redesigns that a lot of brands swear by, and I want to know why you think that and what brands should do instead of just diving all in on a redesign.
I'm absolutely very, very against it, which is funny because 4 or 5 years ago, I was on the opposite side. I was always like, do big redesigns. You're gonna get big results from it, et cetera, et cetera. And then slowly over time, I learned why it's the wrong route to go. And I'll actually tell you a story that just happened with a brand that we just had to help. Uh, Absolute nightmare story. But this will sort of seal the deal on why redesigns are for the most part really bad. So first part, number one, a full website redesign. If you already have a brand that's running and you're running ads and you're acquiring customers, and you want to do a full website redesign, number one, it's very unlikely that it's actually going to perform better. The reason for that is Meta, especially if you're on Meta, even Google, they do not like extremely drastic website changes. As soon as that
Mm.
happens, they have to relearn what type of traffic to send you because your entire website has now changed, especially if you've been running ads for years, because it has all this data on users that it's driven to your website, how they interact with it, how long it takes for them to purchase, how they navigate. They have all this data, and all of a sudden you do this massive redesign, and all these users are visiting your website. They're now using the website differently, or they're taking longer, or they're going shorter, and Meta doesn't know what to do because now
Mhm.
everything has changed. So
Interesting.
every single time I've seen a website redesign, performance has tanked, like immediately the next day, because Meta does not know what to do when your website changes that drastically. So I've never seen a redesign, all of a sudden you have a 30% better performance the next day. I've never seen that happen once. I've seen it improve over time once Meta
Mhm.
figures things out again, but it's a very drastic shock. So all the time I see these brands that are spending 10, 20, $30,000 a day, they go do a massive redesign, they spend a ton of money on it, and then all of a sudden they lose 15, $20,000 the next day because performance tanks. And there you go, you already now you have a problem. And then
You
and then
paid
they
for that
panic.
redesign
And
also.
you paid
Yeah.
for that and you typically waited 3 to 6 months for that redesign to get done. So
Mhm.
now it's a panic, and now it's like, okay, well, let's switch back to the old theme and see if it regulates, and then it regulates, and let's try to go back to the new one, and then it tanks again. And it's like this massive issue. I've seen this happen so many times, drives me crazy. I wish people would just would stop doing it, but agencies really like to sell them because they
Mm-hmm.
sound really good in theory. Number two, we as a CRO agency, we're all about data and making data-driven decisions because for the most part, like you're shooting in the dark if you don't make decisions based off of data. When you do a full website redesign, there's two scenarios that happen. Either first scenario, it performs better and it does better, which super rare. I've literally never seen it happen on a next date kind of thing. Second scenario, worst case scenario is it does worse. In either one of those scenarios, you do not know why the website is performing better or it's performing worse because you've changed so many variables on the website that you can't
Mm-hmm.
attribute the performance increase or decrease to any one of those singular variables. So you end up spending all this money and all this time to not have any data whatsoever.
Yeah.
You spend 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever it is, and you get no actionable insights or data out of it because you've changed so many variables. So, worst case scenario, it performs worse, and maybe 80% of the elements that you changed would have actually performed better if you tested them individually, but you don't know that. And that's the worst case scenario. Even in
Yeah,
the best
you
case
have no
scenario,
learning lessons, no
yeah,
data at all. Yeah.
absolutely nothing. And the best case scenario does perform better, but you still don't know why. So you might have 6 or 7 elements in there that are actually bringing performance down, and it could have performed better had you tested them individually.
Mm-hmm.
Third point, and then I'll get into the story. I'll be quick on the story. But the third point is it takes way longer than just doing each piece individually. Like
Uh,
if you actually break down, let's say you want to change 25 different elements on a website, and it's going to take you 6 months to build everything out and then do it all in one go at the end of the day. If you just tested each one of those variables individually, you would do it in 6 months or less, and you would know which one of them performed better and which one of them performed worse. So you actually get a better result with less time, and most of the
mhm.
time less money. Um, getting in, I'll get into the story now. This has literally just happened. It's some people have talked about it all over Twitter uh, for the last little bit, but basically a brand that we've been working with, they want to do a website redesign. We advised them against it. They didn't listen, which is it happens.
Yeah.
They spent almost $200,000 in about 9 months redesigning their website, which is very common, especially if you go to like a really big agency. They charge, an absurd amount of money,
Mhm.
which is another story because a website redesign does not cost $200,000, but you know, um, took about 9 months, and then they basically they ran the new design as a test against the original design, and they as soon as they ran that test, they started losing about $40,000 a day
Oh my
on the
gosh.
new design.
Oh.
And the problem with this is because it typically takes about 7 to 14 days to get statistical significance on a test. If they actually
Mhm.
want to get a validated answer as to whether or not it's performing, they have to keep running it. So they kept
Mhm.
running it, they kept running it, kept running it, and they actually burned about $500,000
Oh my
when that yeah when the test finally they finally concluded it. So $200,000 down the drain for the redesign, 9 months of time waiting, and then $500,000 in essentially I wouldn't necessarily, I guess it's opportunity cost, but it's also you know a large reduction in marketing efficiency overall because of it. So
God.
you
Mhm.
have the missed opportunity cost, and then you're also spending more money to acquire customers than you should be or you're used to. So they sacrifice a massive amount of ground growth, 9 months of time, $200,000 in actual money, and then $500,000 in opportunity cost. The worst part
Wow.
about that was everything that was done in that redesign, we could have just tested individually over 3 to 6 months, and that
Mhm.
entire situation wouldn't have happened. So that's the worst case scenario.
Yes, that is, what is that? Almost $1 million. I mean, that's like $250,000, $750,000.
Yeah.
Uh, wow. Yes. Okay, you heard it here. Don't do big redesigns. Just test incrementally instead. Small things add up over time. Uh, wow. My mind is like spinning with just how hard that must have been for that brand.
Yeah.
Um, Always be testing. That's what we say. Always be testing. You don't need to change everything overnight, no matter how excited a new CMO gets. And sometimes new CMOs get very excited about redesigns.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been very interesting. I'm so glad we had you on. We will definitely do something in the future. I'm thinking like a live webinar. I'd love for people to ask you questions about
Yeah.
this, especially this offer stuff. But before I let you go, can you please tell people where they can find you, and how they can get in touch with you should they be interested?
Yeah, absolutely. So easiest is our website, moreconversions.com. You can book a call with me. I do all the intro calls because I like to talk to people. Or you can find me on Twitter, C_Shelefontiuk. My full name was way too long to be on Twitter, so I had to improvise. Or Instagram, first name, last name, Connor Shelefontiuk on Instagram. Anywhere, it's good. I'm active on all of them. So yeah, feel free to reach out, say hi.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Connor. This is great. Everyone, you can find Connor at moreconversions.com. Go find him on all socials, and we will talk about offer testing more to come.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of our CRO Expert Series. I highly recommend finding Connor and following him on whatever social media platform you use. Follow More Conversions as well. He is very insightful. He has great tips on how to market and optimize your brand strategically. So please give him a follow. And if you're interested in A/B testing on your Shopify store, Shogun has a free app available in the Shopify App Store that you can get started optimizing right away. Thanks again for tuning in, and check back for more tips, tricks, strategies, and interviews with the experts on optimizing your e-commerce store.